Everybody who's here, welcome to the live stream. We have the host here, Takeoi.
Yep.
Is that how I pronounce it?
Yeah, a lot of people pronounce it weird, but yeah, Takio is as
Yeah.
close as you get. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Uh, Pleasure to have him here. So we're just gonna be doing a Q&A. As mentioned, we were just setting up. We're gonna be pulling some questions from chat in between some questions that Takeoi has some. Uh, and then we're also going to be giving out some codes. And at the very end, we got a little bit of a surprise for you guys, a little bit of an announcement that we're going to be showing you.
Mhm.
So without further ado, let's start with the first question.
All right. So, um, my first question. This is like for I guess the whole team or just all of you. Um, I was wondering like how has like development been for you guys in the past like year? Because I know for a lot of people it's been a bit difficult or weird because of the whole pandemic. So I was just curious like if it was difficult or challenging at all.
Yeah, so we had our office in the Bay Area, and that's where we were building like World Zero Alpha out, and that's where we shipped a lot of the initial, I think the first 6 months of the game we were building there and whatnot. And the office lease ended right as COVID hit. This was in like March of 2020, I think. And then so from there we decided to not renew the office because we didn't know if people were even going to be able to come in. So we just went fully remote, and then I think that definitely slowed us down for a bit. That's why from going from like beta to free release took such a long time transitioning to that there. But I'd say that we've gotten into a pretty good schedule in terms of working remotely. People seem to be pretty happy being able to live wherever they want and work more flexible hours. So
Okay.
I'd say not really any more of a struggle than it probably would have been the way we were doing it before. It was just the transition was some friction.
Another question I had was I was curious about like the steps it took to make like an update. What's the process you go through when you're like coming up with an update or designing one or anything like that?
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
go Austin, go ahead.
all right. So we like to plan things out months in ahead or months ahead. These are like big concept ideas. For example, towers. Towers were planned out for, I think, somewhere around 4 or 5 months before we actually started like seriously working on it.
Hmm.
And during that time, we formalized like ideas for it, see how we can make the gameplay a lot better, and eventually it gets to the point where we want to release it. And so when it gets to like around 2 4 weeks out, that's when we just go ham on it. We go ham on the update. So yeah, it's pretty awesome though.
What was like the most, I guess, update that took like the most challenging to you? Like the most difficult update to make that like really
Guilds.
guilds?
Guilds, guilds. I was definitely learning a lot of new things when I was making guilds. Uh, it was around, I think, a month in development time. It was very heavily involved with a lot of systems like the daily quests, the dungeons, getting points from those things, and just overall like connectivity with players. We wanted to come up with ideas to make people be able to join each other quickly or easily. I think there was like a restriction that we had where you had to be friends with someone to actually teleport to them,
Hmm.
but Guilds provides an alternative way where you don't have to be friends with someone. You can just join a group and then teleport to anyone you want to, and as long as they're in that guild. So it was just a lot of steps to create a really awesome social experience, and there was just a lot involved with it, but it was definitely fun to make. We got a lot of awesome feedback about it. There's still a lot of work to be done about it, but it's out there and people love it.
Oh yeah.
And just to kind of tie into your previous question on like how do we actually do the updates? So for guilds, for example, I wrote out a big sheet that basically said, this is what guilds should be. This is what you need to be able to do in it. This is when you get points. And then I gave that to Austin, and he basically figured out, okay, how do we make this happen in the game? And then he broke that down, figured out how to, warp all the systems to fit it. And so that process there, I think, was probably was it like 2 or 3 months for guilds? Because I know that I had the spec and then we kind of talked about it for a while because we like to like think about ideas before we actually just jump on them, because it's really easy to just get excited about an idea and then drop everything and work on it, and then you realize 3 days later, oh, maybe that wasn't a good idea. So we always like to write it out, kind of just let it sit for a while, and then look at it again in a week or two and be like, does this still sound like a good idea? And if something like consistently sounds like a good idea, then we usually end up adding it.
Let's do a
Oh yeah.
question from the community. I see a lot of people talking about this. Since we're on the topic of guilds too, will there be any changes to the guild points grinding metas next season?
Absolutely. Yeah, just basically the way that the guild metas works is, because it's the first season, we figure people are going to find metas that we couldn't even have imagined. Like the way that people are setting their level to, like, they're making new accounts and then bringing the high accounts into those dungeons, and like there's some really crazy stuff going on. And then if we patch one thing, then people find a new meta to do. So it's like a game of cat and mouse almost. So we're trying to figure out really unique ways to do that. An idea that the team was pitching earlier this week was like locking each dungeon to only be able to be played like a certain amount of times per day. So if one of them is easier than the other ones, then maybe you knock that one out first, but then you have to do the other ones. So basically the answer to that question is yes, we're trying to change it up constantly. And then part of how that works might just be always changing it. There might not be a perfect answer, and just always switching it up will keep things interesting.
Yeah, to kind of coin off of that, that cat and mouse, I think some of our players may have experienced this a little bit. For example, we locked guilds, or not guilds, dungeons to level 15 and up, and then later we were like, okay, now we need to make it 30 because it's so easy for someone to just run straight through a level 15 dungeon. But we're also experiencing the same thing with level 30, so it's just that game of cat and mouse all over again. So we need to be a little smarter there.
Okay, so while we're on the topic of guilds, have you guys ever thought about adding more like role-playing elements to it? Like, for example, if you have your own guild hall or private world that's catered around your guild, stuff like that. Have you guys ever thought about it? Or
Yeah, so we actually talked about this a lot before we released guilds. We were trying to figure out, other than just contributing points, what can people contribute to a guild? And then this is just a rough idea, but we were always discussing, like, what if you could have a guild hall that your guild could teleport to, and then each season your guild can contribute like gold or something to build it into a better hall. So definitely an idea we're thinking about. It's just a matter of what's the best way to do it, because if you have a guild hall, can other guilds visit it? Can we maybe have some kind of like customization, maybe a world map, maybe some kind of crazy system in the future where it's like a battle taking place on a big map with all the guilds and there's grids. So definitely want to do more with guilds. There's just like thousands of ideas and we have to pick 10 essentially.
all right. So I had this on my mind for a little while, ever since you guys started revamping the old worlds. Could we see more of them getting revamped, or is World 2 like the last one?
Yeah, so the intro worlds we wanted to revamp because those were the worlds you start off in. As a new player, you want to be like surrounded by, I guess, wholesome vibes, you know?
Yeah.
You want to be able to get into the game really easily. And we noticed that our worlds were just a little bit of a mess. It wasn't linear. It wasn't easy to get into or find stuff. But then we switched World 1 to be linear, and the same goes for World 2, although World 2 is a little interesting as well. But in the future, there's like, I think World 4 is like, there's an interest to do something with that one. But I think all the other worlds are pretty fine where they are.
All right.
Yeah, and I think if we, like, as you can tell now with guilds, you're able to use old content in the game to get something useful. So I think if we're gonna polish up the older worlds, like between 3 and 6 and whatnot, we would do that when we add new content to those worlds. So like World 3, if we were gonna add a brand new piece of content to that, that's when we'd do a polish there.
While we're talking about worlds, some people have been wondering, it's been a few months since World 7 has been released, but what does the Easter egg in World 7 under the Waterfall mean?
I'll let Alex take the floor on that one.
Yeah.
Waterfall Easter egg. I know the area, and I know we've talked about adding some interesting things there. I don't want to say what they are just in case we end up making them relatively soon. But yeah, definitely plans to do something with those areas. Um, yeah, that's just kind of all I have on that.
I think those areas were more so meant to like give players hints at what's happening. Like we're trying to tie some things together, and I think players really appreciate like a little bit of a heads up or a notice when they see these Easter eggs, and it's definitely like it makes them think what's coming next, you know?
My next question was, when it comes to like character customization when players are starting off, could we potentially see like more options added, such as like facial features like scars or anything like of that sort, or new hairstyles or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we've announced this yet, um, but I'll announce it anyways in case we haven't. But we're going to be letting people submit hairstyles to the game. So we are going to like give out the 3D head model and then let people make faces and things like that that they want to submit to the game. Because we know that there's a lot of people that have like really cool ideas that they want to add and stuff. And we haven't updated it in a while. So I think this would be an interesting way to just add like exactly what people are looking for by kind of just getting people to submit some stuff, and then we can reward the people that we want to add the things to the game for. And that should be going out pretty soon. I think Coffee can actually give a estimate for when that's going to launch.
Yeah, we're planning very soon, after the Q&A. Shortly after, give it take like a few weeks, I'd say like 2 at the most. Um, we're going to be allowing people to try and make some either hairs or faces or facial features, um, to try and just what's their take on what we should be adding to the game for these hairstyles and facial features, because we can only do so much. We're not great at everything, and some people might be better than us at some things.
Hmm.
So we want to see what the audience and what our fans would like to see, if they're skilled in those areas, or if they even want, take a jab at it and see how it goes. They don't have to be skilled. They could be really good and just think they're not. So we want to give that opportunity to those people. And of course, we will compensate for everybody that we add to the game.
And yeah, the goal there is that we can go make like 100 new hairstyles, but we're gonna probably have like we're gonna assign this to our art team to make, and then it's gonna be 1 or 2 people making all of the hairstyles. And there's nothing wrong with that from an art standpoint, but from like a personal preference standpoint, everyone picks different clothes in real life, everyone picks different hairs, they're all designed by different people. So that's really the idea here, is that having different people submitting designs is going to make the characters look a lot less one person's like version of an ideal character, and let more people's ideal versions come out.
Okay, so some pets in the game, they have like little cosmetics, I guess you would say. Like the black goo has like a helmet, and I think the reindeer might have. No, Snow Golem has like a Santa hat. So I was wondering like if pet cosmetics has ever crossed your mind, or if you ever thought about, adding them for pets.
I think we've thought about it before. We've just never done it. Some stuff like a helmet and a hat can be trickier because like a pet might not have a head that fits it well or something
Hmm.
like that. But for things like back accessories, like wings and whatnot that go on your character, that kind of stuff could be possible to attach to pets. We just haven't really thought about it too much. We've thought more about the characters. Um, and then when we have made the pets with the accessories pre-built on them, that's kind of been how we've been doing that. So yeah, that's kind of the thought there. It's technically possible, but not super high on our radar.
Back when Tower 3 was announced, you guys were talking a little bit about raids. I was curious, like, if we're going to see, like, a level cap raise for raids, or is it going to stay at 100?
Definitely a tough question, just because the infinite level cap problem, I call it a problem, and I think it is one, is that if we keep adding if we keep bumping the level cap up infinitely,
Mm-hmm.
then it just becomes harder and harder to get into the game. When you go to make a guild, there's going to be people that are all throughout the level range a lot more. And then we're seeing a lot of industry games, like even World of Warcraft, they squished their max level back down to 50. and then increase it to 60 or something like that. Just essentially because of the same problem is that you get infinite levels and then it becomes like impossible to catch up in the game, or you get lots of areas that are dead. So the plan is to try and find a way to do it without making the level cap just go up infinitely. We can always fall back on that if we find that's just the most fun to just, go level 110, 120, 130 with new worlds.
Yeah.
But the goal is to do something better than that if we can. And then for raids, yeah, we want to do like essentially 10 players, let them go fight like a really hard dungeon that we make. This would give guild points, so it would be really good for guilds. And that's kind of our thought around there. We were thinking with World Zero we would implement something like that.
Do we have any questions from the chat or?
Yes, we have quite a few. First thing is, if you could change one thing about the game, right? What would you change? Assuming we have the time.
That's a tough question.
Yeah, like
There's so
pretending
many.
we didn't have a timeline or anything like that, or like if you could just rip one thing out of the game and change it from the start. That's an interesting question.
Honestly, towers. I like towers how they are. The proceduralness, or not the proceduralness. If you look at a Tower 1 where we did the bosses, there was a unique boss per, let's see. We did 25 floors when we first released it, right? That was like a grand vision for towers, right? But there was a boss every 5 floors. Then it was like what, every 3 floors or something. But anywho, uh, creating like a final boss for each one of those sections would have been definitely something that I would have loved to do. I love creating bosses. I don't know if y'all played, or I know some of y'all actually played The Fallen King. We heard a lot of good feedback about it, but it's like those kinds of bosses. We're getting way better with how we do mechanics and whatnot, and just bosses are just so fun to fight, especially if they are challenging and rewarding afterwards. So that's definitely something I would like to do.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I guess for me, if I had to change something, towers was definitely tricky because we built those with the idea that we'd be able to make content that was as fun as dungeons, quicker than dungeons, and it ended up being like we had to make 5 bosses per tower instead of 1 per dungeon, and it was a nightmare from what we tried to set out and accomplish, but we still ended up with something interesting. I think if I had to make one change to the game, it would probably be I would want to redo how like classes and skills and everything works. Because right now everything's very tied to a single class. So if we want to give like one class a move from another class, it's pretty much impossible to do this. Like everything, both the way the game's designed and how the code is written, classes are just very tied together. So I think that's probably one of the bigger limitations that we have to work around. Not that it's a problem, but I do love the idea of things like expanding your classes or coming up with more elite versions of classes. And so to do something like that, we just have to figure out how we balance things like there's just a lot of things to consider to do that essentially. Yeah.
Okay.
Very nice. All right. Another question that I see a lot of people asking is, are we going to be changing the duration of the guild season?
Yeah, so I think it might make sense to increase the seasons a little bit. It's definitely a challenge for people to complete these seasons within a certain amount of time. Like they're just over a month, I believe. 35 days in season and then 7 days off season. So increasing this would definitely make people give it would give people a lot more wiggle room. They don't have to be on every day. I know there's some people that are super dedicated that love to play every day and just grind for guild points, and it's actually awesome to see that. But I definitely think that increasing the season time would make sense.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people, some people want it longer, some people want it to be a lot shorter. Basically, we kind of just have to look at how things go with the first season and design around there. Because we did a lot of stuff on paper, like I think on paper we were able to figure out like this isn't theoretically how long it should take people to get this. If your guild has this many members and you're this active daily, then it'll take this many days to get each tier. So we did a bunch of on paper stuff. But the thing is, everyone's different. You're gonna have people that just grind nonstop from day one, and then you're gonna have people that want to, just play on weekends. So we have to design it in a way that everyone can find a way to like be able to participate. So that's why daily quests are also meant to give like some points as well, because they're meant to be, you can only do them once per day, but they give you a much bigger sum than you would normally get if you spent the same amount of time. So yeah, kind of we do want to change the balance around there, but I don't know what the answer is going to be just because we have to see how a few more things go with the first season.
Yeah, we're definitely learning a lot from this first season. Absolutely.
Have you guys ever thought about adding more cosmetic options, such as like body auras or even like capes or something along those lines?
I would love to do something like that. Capes are definitely an interesting option. Right now, we do support like back accessories, so a cape would easily fit this role.
Hmm.
But some other things that are kind of cool that we've been sort of hackily implementing are face accessories. If y'all noticed, there's like some faces where you have like there's like one where there's a rose in the mouth or something, but that's actually a hat accessory. Um, Basically stuff like that we've just been like experimenting with, but it would definitely be really cool to make something more official. And then this of course would inherently give players a lot more creative ability to customize the character however they want.
Hmm.
Yeah,
All
and,
right.
and for capes, like Austin said, we already have back accessories. We even had capes in one of my older games, Swordburst, and it was just like they didn't look that great, but people liked them. So I think with World Zero, if we were gonna do capes, it would be we want to use skin meshes and give them like some not like realistic, but at least good looking animations or cloth physics. And
Hmm.
then that could be extended to stuff like scarves too. So I
Cool.
think that would be really cool. Like jumping off a high place and then seeing like your cape or scarf blow in the wind. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
A lot of people I'm seeing now. Uh, have we ever thought about adding weapon skins or sword skins, etc.?
Yes. This is something that the team asked me about a lot too, because they want it. And I'd always been leaning towards not doing it just yet because I always like the idea that if you're holding something, you know exactly what it is and like how powerful it is and stuff. But especially now that we have like 100 levels and everything, I think it'll probably make sense to just start doing weapon cosmetics at some point. So if you want to have like an umbrella or a wooden sword or a newspaper or whatever, then that can all work. Just
Hmm.
because now that you can customize your character so freely, it almost looks out of place in some cases where like you're a pop star, but then you have these big rock weapons and stuff. Like maybe you want a golf club or something. I don't know.
All right. So one question a lot of people, at least that I've talked to, asked was, could we see an increase in like bank slots or inventory slots in the near future?
So, Roblox actually increased the amount of data that you can actually send to data stores recently, and this was the reason why. This as a result of this, we actually increased the bank slots, right? The problem with what we're facing is we can't just have like a player have too much because otherwise data stores is probably not going to be able to handle it and it'll corrupt their data and no one wants that. No one
Hmm.
wants to be able to not join our game, right? So we have to be careful with how we increase inventory or bank slots or any sort of thing that we store on your profile. And we're just being cautious here. But I think in the future it would be pretty cool if we did something like that. Increase it more.
All right.
Yeah, we're definitely being cautious. An issue that we had was that we saved all of your characters on one account. So it was really hard for us to figure out, okay, how much data can we fit in an inventory? Because what if they go make like two new characters and then load out their inventories or something? Um, so yeah, it was kind of just the way that the game was designed. Uh, Not easy to make an MMORPG on Roblox, especially when we started. Things have gotten easier.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think like Austin said, we can increase it. We just have to investigate how much room we actually have because I think we have a lot of room since like the game started. It's gone up by like 5 or 10 times.
Wow. All right.
So I have two questions that I have from the chat that tie perfectly into the conversation. First of all, do we also plan to have an increase in trading slots?
Trading
Alex,
slot increase. No plans. I didn't know that was a problem. If that's something that people are running into where they want to do more items and trades, then we can look into that. Yeah.
All
I,
right.
I think I saw like a couple of games do this. It would be pretty cool. But basically, they were just able to trade like a lot of items, and you could just like add items to a list, and it would like there were no like slots. There were just like a list of items that you can trade. I don't know if we're actually going to do something like this, but an increase. We have noticed that players have been asking for an increase in trade slots. So at the very least, it would be cool to investigate that.
Yeah, there's no like technical reason that we can't do it. It's just a matter of doing it. Yeah, so if that's something that people really want, then we can absolutely look into it.
Great. And the other one is what technologies or technology has made the development of World Zero easier or more comfortable?
Roblox has been shipping this out in beta for a while now. I think it's still in beta, but they're called drafts. And what happens here is when you work in a team create area in Studio, you are working on a script. And before, another scripter couldn't actually like access it or edit it or anything. But now with drafts, you can actually create a local version of it and then test it out, do what you need to do, and then you can push it to the team create. And that way, it makes collaboration so much quicker, so much easier, and it's actually very easy to understand changes based on this as well. So if anything, that has actually exorbitantly increased our development time, or decreased our development time, so to speak.
All right.
Alex, what's your take on that?
On best technology that's made it easier for us, that one's tough. Definitely agree with the drafts. Drafts is huge. It's basically adding version control. Like, so before you're editing all your scripts live with everyone else, which means the second you add one letter to just go make a quick change, like it breaks the whole game. So that was a really good change. I'd say skin meshes, maybe. That's more of a feature rather than like a development feature, but that has let us take a lot of mobs in the game. So like, you know, in Roblox, our characters are made out of like 15 parts, and then you can like take them apart and whatever. So in World Zero, all the bosses were also done like this. So if you had the tree ant boss from World 1, for example, he probably had like 15, 20, 30 joints. I don't know. But there's like going to end up being like 30, 40 parts within it. And so with meshes, now that we have like skin meshes and animations there, we can fuse these down into like 5 parts or less, just depending on what kind of monster it is. And this is really good for our animators because it's a nicer workflow for them. And it's also really good for players because now when there's something like 10 mobs spawning, if each of them had 10 parts before, that was 100 parts. And now if they have 2, then you're looking at 20 parts. So it's like a huge like 5 times reduction in just the amount of parts being rendered for enemies. So I would say, yeah, skin meshes is my answer for that.
I have one question when it came to cosmetics. I was curious whether or not if we could potentially see like the ability to use like the dyes on weapons or even like some cosmetics that you can't dye or you can't, you know, buy from the item shop or anything. I was wondering if we could see something like that happen.
Yeah, so the idea with cosmetics that are dyed is we like them being kind of tradable. So the goal for us there, I think, would be to make new ways of getting cosmetics that are dyed. So whether that's adding them to the daily shop or adding dyed versions to like future drops somewhere or something, I think that's the way we want to do that. Rather than letting people apply the dyes to the cosmetics just because the daily shop stuff. I do like that system.
All right. I was also curious if we could see like more special world types. In
More special world types. So more things like the PvP world, the marketplace.
yeah, like maybe there's a world just like catered to like I don't know like guilds or something.
Like a guild recruitment world type thing.
Yeah.
I've heard that before, yeah. Yeah, so I think that we're going to be just adding every special world that goes there into that list. If we do things like guild halls, that'll probably be in there as well. The guild recruiting area might be in there. So yeah, I don't really know what other ideas we have for special worlds other than that. And then there's always the events that we do, but we're going to keep adding them for sure.
if anything, I'd love to hear like maybe some ideas from the community.
Hmm.
Like, what do they want to do in World Zero, you know?
I know Ace has been suggesting a mount racetrack for a long time.
Yeah, we were in talks on that one. That one's a really fun discussion.
That would actually be pretty interesting. um, let's see. We have any more questions from the chat?
Yes. Um, so a lot of people in chat, Discord and YouTube, they're asking about the top 10 guilds currently. They kind of want us to give an answer on what we plan to do about the guilds that exploited or cheated in a way. I'm gonna give my own personal thoughts on this. As the person who was behind investigating the guilds that were exploiting, I've been taking every report seriously. I've been checking each one to make sure that prove it if the evidence was sufficient, and I would immediately kick them from the guild, so that way it removed every guild point that they contributed. The issue, though, is that it is extremely difficult to prove exactly who it is, and we can't exactly punish every single person for something one person did. So they could have been doing it behind everyone's backs and nobody realized it and they assumed it was legit, because there are some people who have legitimately like 15,000 guild points who just farmed it over the past month, and it looks legit for most people. So with that said, it is extremely hard for us to even like say, okay, this entire guild is number one because of exploiters, but we can't prove it. So we're just going to punish the entire guild and everyone who contributed to it for the past 30 days or 35 days, and they're not going to get their prize that they worked extremely hard for. So um, we are, looking at this issue. We are considering it. We've talked about it. We do know that it is a very prominent issue and that you guys are very upset about it. And we are doing everything that we possibly can to think of ways to minimize the damage, because on the platform that we are on, it is almost impossible for us to fully eradicate exploiting. It's just, it's almost impossible to do. So all we
Yeah,
can
and
do is just damage control.
just to build on this, basically, yeah, like Coffee said, we can do some damage control. There's also a lot of tools that we're just looking into doing so that it's easier in the next season to track. Because right now we basically just have a username and how many points they contributed, and it's like, okay, they have a lot of points, but where did those points come from? We don't really know. If a player was to get, it was either leave or get kicked from a guild, I forget which, the points would stay. And this was meant to be so that, like, if, I think it was if you left a guild, then the guild wouldn't get to keep the points. I can't remember the details there, but basically you could have points added to a guild with no record of what player added those points. And so I don't know if did we change that yet, Austin? Did we make
We
those
did
removed?
not make that change yet. It's still
Yeah.
if you get kicked from the guild, or no, yeah, if you leave the guild, the points will remain. But if you get kicked from it, it'll take away the points.
Yeah, so we're gonna make it because what people would do is they would have an exploited account, join the guild, they would get points through some way, and then they would leave on that exploited account so that it wouldn't show up in the guild leaderboard and whatnot. And we're gonna make any points that are not associated with a player disappear. That's gonna happen before the end of the season, so you might see some points disappear from your guild if you had a player who left contribute a lot of them. But I think that's really gonna help because that'll make it so that at least all the guild points we're looking at, we know what player it's associated with. And then for future seasons, we're going to implement things like tracking when they actually get the points, where they get them from, so we can see like this player had 0 points, and then all of a sudden one day they contributed 10,000 and then 0 the rest of every other days. So just things like that are going to make it a lot easier for us to be able to tell where are people actually cheating. And then the whole like issue in front of all of this is that if cheating wasn't possible, then there would be no guild point issue to begin with. So we're always trying to fix the exploits that let people do this kind of stuff, like auto farmers and whatnot. Like Coffee said, exploiting on Roblox is very prevalent. That's just because I think it's profitable for the people that make the exploit software. There's a lot of kids that will pay money to buy this, and then it's like a business model for them. And other games don't have that as much. But I've been playing MMOs for like over 10 years, and I remember that I would watch characters going around doing auto farm exploits. So basically nothing new there. Definitely something we can work around. It's just another one of those cat and mouse games.
I had one question about the classes. I was wondering if we could ever see like maybe classes getting revamped or buffed or something like that, like the weaker classes that people can't seem to, I guess, use that much, such as like the Elementus. A lot of people have trouble using it. So I was wondering if we could see like a revamp for those older classes.
I actually was just playing the Elementalist, fighting the Fallen King, and I would always launch my Icy Spikes like right in front of him, but it wouldn't connect. So I definitely understand that there's like an issue with some of these classes. We are definitely like we're interested in making them better, so to speak, making them feel better. It's just we got to find the time for it. We got to slot them somewhere, basically.
And just to build on that, it's an exciting problem because it's a problem of, okay, do we go work on the old classes or do we put that time into brand new one? And that's sort of where we're balancing. So I think we're looking to do a mix of both. Like Elementalist, definitely some complaints there. Guardian, people really like the theme of it. Like you have the big greatsword. The F attack is very nice. It's just really slow, like the auto attack and everything.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's some classes that are like really close to being good. They just need one move tweaked. Like Demon, for example, my personal opinion, I don't like the multi-single mode switch. I'd love to just switch that off with another skill. So yeah, there's a couple changes we want to make, and we're also thinking about new classes as well. So yeah, I would expect to see some changes in the future for sure.
All right.
Very nice. Let's go to a community question.
All right.
Again, we're pulling these from the YouTube channel, from the chat. So one thing that I saw somebody ask, and honestly, we still haven't done it, or really done anything about it. The gold perks for pets, and gold perks, or I'm just gonna say unobtainable perks at this point. Are they ever going to come back, or what do we plan to do about pets in this regard?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because we got rid of the perks because they were overpowered, and that's why we didn't want them dropping. And we also have people that are like trading these pets around as high value items. So I'm not totally sure what the solution is. It doesn't seem like it's a great idea to have like, people able to get higher max stats than other people, but you can technically buy those items from them. So yeah, I really don't know what the best answer to do there is. We can even like make the stats do nothing but keep them on the pet, so it's just like there for the collection aspect. I really don't know. And I know like half the things I say are going to make the values of those items fluctuate too. So I really don't know is the answer right now. Austin, do you have any thoughts on those?
You took the words right out of my mouth. It was overpowered, so we stopped giving them out to pets. We'll try to figure out something to make it the best case scenario for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's the best that we really can do. It's a very complicated situation. Because especially considering there's people who already have it and people who don't have it. So both sides are both like, I want to keep it, but they want them to get the people who don't have it want them to get rid of it because it's just unfair.
Exactly.
So,
And it's like if you're one of the people that doesn't have it, it's also kind of cool the idea that you could like save up a bunch of gold or get rare items and go trade someone for it, and then like get an item that's actually really rare and gives you extra strength in the game. Like anyone who's watched any anime loves the idea of like one-off weapons that are just legendary and powerful and like barely anyone has them. So it's cool in that regard, but then everyone doesn't get to be a main character. So yeah, what do you do?
Yeah. Another thing, I'm able to answer this question because I've been working on it. was game translation. I know a lot of people are very curious about this because uh, our auto translate, it's not that great. So yes, we are working on this. Taking a little bit because we are outsourcing it to community members who are very interested in helping the game. And naturally, they're doing it in their own time. They're their own people. They have personal lives. But we are, in fact, working on translating the game into multiple languages. For example, we're thinking of Japanese, Korean, um, Tagalog, or Tagalong. I don't know how to pronounce it. Um, German, just to name a few.
Yeah, those are like our priority languages, but like Coffee said, if there's a language that you think the game should be in and you're interested in helping translate, then we have that set up. We're paying people to do this as well. It's not just like free volunteers, so each term you translate, we'll pay you for. Um, so yeah, if you're interested in helping out with that, definitely talk to Coffee.
Yes. Last one before we go back to Takeoi. Um, so this is a bit difficult. I'm gonna rephrase it. Do we have any extra plans for guilds? I know that we mentioned guild housing in a earlier announcement, but some questions were like PvP guild wars, or just guild wars in general, in some sort of form. Some more competitions. Like, what are our plans for future guild content?
Yeah, so guilds I really want to be like a huge part of the game's future. So right now this is like V1 where we have basically you get points and then that's how you get the rewards. But the idea is that we can build anything we want in the game using guilds because they travel between worlds, they're not linked to a specific dungeon. So housing was one idea. Another idea that we've had before is stuff like world capturing. And what this would mean is whichever guild is like, we haven't totally spec'd it out yet, but whichever guild is contributing the most in a certain world. So let's say my guild is completing the most dungeons in World 3 or the most world events, then we would actually become the world owners. And maybe there would be like flags around the world, town, and stuff. And like whichever guild owns it, their logo would appear on it. And then maybe even have like a special building there that's like only accessible by the guild. So it's like a per world guild hall or something. So those are like, that's just one idea of many that we have. As for actual like players fighting other players directly, like swinging swords at each other, uh, that one's tougher. Like if you think the exploits are bad now, just wait until we add something like that. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Is we want to just do as much as we can with guilds because it also resets every season. So there's like an opportunity for us to redesign it. We're not stuck to the decisions that we made in the last season. If something wasn't fun, we can take it out. So any and all ideas that people have, we're very open to.
I really like that idea with the whole, like, you like basically have a guild hall in your own world, like World 1 or World 2. That sounds really cool.
Mm-hmm.
My last question would be like, is there, I guess, any big updates to look forward to next year? Like anything that's like a planned or like a roadmap or some sort?
I would say the big one that we didn't talk about was new classes. And the plan there was we want to add some kind of I'm not sure what we're gonna call them and whatnot yet, but basically master, like advanced, like high power level, whatever the word for them is gonna be, legendary classes. And these would be a lot more difficult to unlock. So rather than just collecting points, this would be something that you have to work a lot harder for, but then they would also be like really paid off. And we have a lot of ideas for like interesting rare classes that I think people would be excited for. Like we have all of our weapon types right now that we can recycle too. And when I say recycle, I mean you can put them in any hand. So we could do something like a spear in one hand and a sword in the other hand. I know that I really wanted to do a spell sword style one where you have like a staff in one hand and then a sword in the other. Some people want dual shields, I've seen. Yeah, there's just a lot of ideas. There was another cool one. What was it?
Was it like
Maybe
Wait, did you already
samurai or
say staff
something?
and sword?
Said that one, yeah. I think it was
Hmm.
scythes. We were talking about, there could be like
Oh,
either like a dual scythe demon or a scythe and a sword or something like that.
that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, so we have a lot of ideas there for like really like more advanced level classes. And basically we just need to make these fun to play and then fun to obtain and kind of challenging to obtain as well. Because we don't
Wow.
want like the second we release a new like demon class, everyone has it within an hour, and then we release Dragoon, everyone has it within an hour of the update. So we want something that is a little trickier. Maybe we release two of them at once, so you have to branch out towards one or the other, just so that everyone wouldn't be like rushing for the same thing at once. But yeah, the classes are the things we're thinking about next, how to get more play styles into the game, along with the 10-player raids. I think those would kind of complement each
Hmm.
other nicely. Harder bosses, new skills. That sounds like a good time.
So there could be like, for example, like you have to complete a certain amount of challenges to get like the class. Like, would that?
We're not sure. One idea that we've even had is prestige classes.
Hmm.
So you would, when you hit 100, your level would go back to 1. You keep all of your classes and items and everything, and then you go back to level 1 as that like new legendary class. And
Wow.
then you play through the worlds again to get that class back up to 100. That's one idea we had, just because that would be like we could add like a lot of the content into the game, so you have to play it again. But it's not fully designed yet. That's just one thought.
All right. Um, I guess my final question would be like, how do I phrase this? What inspired you to like, I guess, make World Zero? Like what's like the reference or something like that?
That's tough. I've been making RPGs ever since I knew what they were. Like when I was 10, I was messing around in Game Maker trying to make them. Then I was messing around in some really bad software called like MMORPG Maker. And then I tried RPG Maker and I don't know, I tried everything to make games and then stumbled upon Roblox and then that's where I was making RPGs. So I think that I've just always been into RPGs. So I love playing things like Pokemon, Zelda, JRPGs, Persona, everything like that. So yeah, I think the idea was just I want to make another fantasy world, and there's a bunch of us that want to do this as well.
Hmm. All right. Well, that's
Let's finish off. Yeah, let's finish off with some questions from the community really quickly. Uh, what's the purpose of the other empty tower in World 7? The one with the in progress, I think.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
that was the
Austin,
mountain
go for it.
course. Yeah, so basically, we had plans to add this a little bit later after we released World 7. We never got around to it, of course. But what it was supposed to do was basically it was just supposed to be a challenge, and this challenge would recycle daily. Like you would see an obby for one day, and then maybe like another obby the second day. And of course, these obbies would have like challenges on them, like monsters that you have to defeat. But the point is to get to the top, right? That's why called the mountain course. This was supposed to be like a way for players to just like have something to do in the worlds. I wanted to add something like this to like previous worlds as well, and any new worlds that we create. But we're just not sure like if that's something that we want to do right now. And so we just kind of left it there. And I know people are curious about it, but we got to figure out like if we want to do it. So,
hmm.
what are your thoughts, Alex?
Uh, I think the idea of like the gameplay concept sounds fun, like a random obby that you have to go through with some random challenges. It makes me think of what was suggested earlier about more special worlds. So maybe if we do some kind of like theme park or mini game based world that just has like activities that aren't just fighting bosses, so things that use other parts of the game, like mount races would go there, for example, or any kind of obbies and stuff like that.
And the final question before we go on to our, we're gonna do some promo codes, finish them off, and then we'll go on to the last thing, the surprise. A lot of people are spamming this. Will guild rewards be tradable after the season ends?
Yes, yeah. If it doesn't say they are now, we will make them tradable. But yeah, I don't see any reason to not make them tradable because that way you can like I love having the economy in the game. The idea that you can get any item by not earning it, but by like buying it by earning the money some other way. So I think that's a really cool like system in the game. Especially because World Zero, we do not let you spend Robux to buy gold. So gold is all controlled by the game economy. So I'm just very enthusiastic about that. And just a quick note on the economy, just a fun stat is that when we released sell shops, everyone like had a lot of gold. I think the average amount of gold per player was in the hundreds of thousands. And what happened was we have data showing us, okay, how much gold are people making and how are they spending it? And pretty much all of the gold was getting spent on upgrades. But even though there was gold getting spent on upgrades, and that was pretty much all the gold being spent, it was only like a fifth of all the gold we were generating. So we were like pumping out 5 gold every day, and then 1 was getting deleted. So over time, the economy had a ton of gold in it. But with sell shops, because we take a tax when people buy from it, this has been able to remove 10 times what upgrading was removing from the economy. And this is really good because it means that people have a bit less money. It's not inflating infinitely, so you don't have to like join the game, have 0 gold. Okay, what do I need to buy an item? 20 million. That sounds high. So this really helped balance the economy out. So people can trade things. Things are like really setting at some like more stable prices. So more things to trade. I'm always a fan of. I just want to give some backstory on what it is that we're going to announce for everyone because it's a total topic shift here. Cool. So that was the World Zero Q&A. And then, as you guys know, World Zero is made by Red Manta. That's the company that we run that builds all the games that we work on. And we have a third project that we've been prototyping for a little while. And we kind of just want to show you guys what that is. If you've seen my Twitter, that's the game that I've been tweeting about. So without further ado, whenever that's ready.
All right.
It is ready. Takeoi, if you want to watch my stream.
Yep, I'm on it.
All right. So we're gonna play some footage here, just 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And while we're playing this, we're gonna talk over the footage and kind of explain some stuff about the game. So
Awesome.
there we go.
And just another note, Red Manta has a lot of games in the works, so it's not like when we're working on one game, we stop working on the other. This was actually all being built while Austin was doing guilds for World Zero. So it's really cool that we've got like multiple games being developed in parallel now. This is our latest project, a lot different than our other games because we have World Zero, which is like a fantasy RPG, Robloxian High School, which is a roleplay game. We wanted something that was more like an arcade game. So this is like a wave defense, monster shooter. I don't even know what you'd classify it as, but it's like a wave defense game where you go around collecting loot, defeating enemies, building bases that can then be destroyed. The map is fully destructible. And yeah, take a look at the footage.
Wow, that looks amazing already.
Yeah, so you spawn in with like groups of 5 people. We'll go into a match, and then if you go down during a round, so you run out of health, then you're stuck down until a teammate revives you or they finish the round. And then you can see here some turrets being placed. There's barbed wire and stuff. So like the turrets will automatically aim at enemies. Barbed wire slows them down. There's spike traps to do damage to them. And everything's really dynamic. So like all those fences you see, those cars, those can all get destroyed. They all have health. And the enemies are going to follow different paths to get to you through this. So you can kind of like try and lead their pathfinding. But if they do something you don't want, then you have to like plan around that. So it's going really well.
Yeah, one comment I can make on it. Like you face off against a couple of different enemies, and they can get pretty easy when like you just take down just a small group. But as the rounds continue, you start actually encountering a very difficult issue of they're gonna swarm you. So what's the next step here? You have to build a base. You have to build traps. You have to stop them and slow them down some other ways. And that's what I think is a really interesting and sort of unique experience when it comes to these types of games on Roblox. And especially with the different types of mobs that come at you, there's a flying mob, there's a mob that runs at you like at super fast speeds, and I can't tell you how many times I actually went down because of this that one particular mob. I
You
think
can
it's the
see it in the
wolf, right?
video. The purple wolf, the sprinter.
Yeah.
Those ones
Yeah.
they don't have a lot of health, but they're fast. And yeah, like Austin was saying, every round gets harder. So you see that's wave 2 right there. That's got 40 enemies. I think we've just changed how the enemy count works for testing. But the way it works is on round 1, there's 10 enemies, and then wave 2 is 20, wave 3 is 30. So it goes up by 10 every round. By wave 15, you have 150 enemies that are attacking you. And not only do they spawn more enemies each round, but the time in between the spawns gets shorter too. And what happens is you basically, like, you have to play smart to get further. So if you just run around and you don't build a base, you can maybe get to like wave 5, 10 or something like that. But then if you start placing defenses, maybe some turrets, you can get to like wave 7, 8, 9. And what it does though is it really creates a feeling of intensity, which is something that I don't feel as much in games nowadays, unless there's like when you're not sure, like, am I gonna make it or not? That feeling, and you get that feeling like every round with this game, and that's what I really like.
Wow.
Yeah, and then when someone goes down, it's and you have like a really good weapon, it's like revive me, I got a ray gun, revive me, res me, res me. It's sort of that same feeling and brought into a Roblox game, and it's really exciting.
And then I don't know if Coffee has this in the video, but we do have a chain gun now, and there's also an RPG that we're adding. We're adding a flamethrower, chainsaw, grenade launcher. So we're adding some really interesting special weapon types, and then we might even implement those as like classes that you play as. So if you're playing as like the chain gun class, then you can call in a chain gun that airdrops in after you do some kind of criteria. But yeah, just for some more background on this, this has only been in development at the time of this video. It was, I think, 8 weeks. So it's really early, and we've been able to do a lot. And part of that is taking the lessons we learned with World Zero. World Zero took 3 months to get to alpha, like I think a year to get to beta, and then it was almost 2 years to full release. And that's just because we were figuring things out as we went. But now that we've kind of learned, okay, what's a good idea and bad idea in terms of like investing in, we're able to like throw a game together so much quicker and see what's fun. So I'm just very excited about this.
This looks like
Yeah.
you could easily spend hours on.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. The only reason why this is so short is because it's not very balanced for single player at the moment. We kind of do a lot of play testing together, so you'll notice I get swamped. I kind of didn't build my base correctly. Those sprinters, man, they were the
It's
death of
spawning
me.
90 enemies on wave 3 in this video too. That's why I'm
Yes.
saying it's definitely like, it's supposed to be 30, so that's like some dev setting that's turned on there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
you can
think
see the barbed wire really like building a shield for you there so that you get a bit more time.
Oh,
yeah, I think what's incredible here is that Red Manta has been working on this game in parallel with World Zero. So World Zero's development time has not slowed down by any means just because we're working on this new game. We're actually learning quite a lot just by doing something like this, and it's really awesome to see the work that they're doing.
Yeah, and that's kind of the goal is how do we build, more games, or even within a game, how do we bring on like another programmer and add more features to the game without it like stealing time from what's already working and whatnot. All right, so here's our round end screen. This kind of shows you leaderboards at the end. It shows you like those are your MVPs there. So whoever does the most damage, whoever does the most building, whoever does the most healing, whoever does the most grenade throwing, they get a bonus. And then there's also your daily quests at the bottom, so you can see like what am I actually supposed to be doing to get extra points today.
Wow.
Oh, and one more thing, it's also voice chat enabled. So you'll be able to talk to your friends while you're fighting these mobs and whatnot.
yes.
Yeah, I was playtesting in an airport. I was sitting in the middle of the airport on voice chat playing it, and it was working great, even on airport Wi-Fi. So pretty happy with that one.
Wow, that
All
game
right.
looks really good so far.
Yeah,
Sweet.
we'll definitely be tweeting more about it, and then we'll be having an alpha. Hopefully, it'll be sometime before the end of this year. We'll get that out to the public to test. Cool. Cool.
Cool.
But I think that's it for our Q&A. So, who wants to close it out? Takeoi, it's your stream. Do you want to do it?
Sure. I hope everyone got their questions answered, and hopefully we all got a good idea of like what's to come. Honestly, I'm really glad to be able to sit down and talk with you guys and ask some questions, and of course get to see like this little amazing project that you guys are working on. And I'm excited to see like what else is to come in the future.
Absolutely.
And we want to do these
We're
more
excited.
often as well. So just for the community, we're going to try and do these, I want to say every 2 months, I think we're going to try and hit, if not every month. Like we'll try and set up a schedule that works really well for us.
All right,
Yeah,
so
we're excited about doing these. We're very passionate about it. We really just want to hear and interact more with all of you, as it's just hear more from what you guys want. As personally, as the community manager for a year, I know how much you guys kind of wanted to hear from us. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And it was Coffee and Wing that were really pressuring like to make this happen. So thanks to you guys for setting this up. Like really appreciate that. Austin and I really just had to show up today, so thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for setting it up, guys. It's been awesome.
Yeah, Wing's not here. I think he might be in the
Oh, he
YouTube.
just
You bet
unmuted.
I'm here.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, it was great. It was really fun getting this all set up and whatnot.
Woo.
Awesome. All right, well, I think we'll leave it there then.
all right.
And then we'll talk to you guys next time. And please post in the starboard. Like I know I say that I read it, but I actually read it like a lot. So if you post something in there and it has a lot of stars, then I probably read it. And if you have an idea that you think would get a lot of stars, put it there so that I will read it.
Yeah, if he hasn't read it, I probably brought it up in our dev chats.
Awesome. All right, well, we'll end things there. Thanks you guys for coming, and we'll see you next time.
All
Yeah,
right.
thanks for having us, guys. Have a good one.
See ya.